In this episode, we're going to talk about PulseChain, the bull case. If you're new to PulseChain, I'll tell you why I'm bullish on it, because I think it's got a lot of potential in terms of cryptos for the next couple months, maybe even years in this bull run. If and when we have one, I know it seems like dark times, but crypto is here to stay. So it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get bigger. You know, the adoption rates are literally faster than the internet adoption rates. And we're seeing the global crypto revolution play out right now. We're seeing institutions get into crypto. We're seeing everybody want an ETF, even the Trump family, the WLFI company. I think they just filed for an ETF. So it's really, the legal landscape has never been better. And all the institutions, the big money players want to get in. But how can you as a retail person actually profit? You know, I say this on repeat, so my subscribers are probably tired of hearing this, but Bitcoin is just not going to do those outsized returns anymore. Bitcoin is old news. You're 15 years late to Bitcoin. So everybody's telling you on the news, oh, Bitcoin, you know, you're probably hearing it because it's the biggest brand name, but it's got the most liquidity. It's really heavy in terms of the price to move it up. And the only people left that can pump it are BlackRock, and the government's got so much of it. So basically the establishment feels they have control of it, and they're going to sell it back to you. And maybe it goes to a 2x. Maybe if we're lucky, Bitcoin hits 200K, maybe 210, 220. And that's cool. That's a lot of money we should still be grateful even for those gains, because compared to the stock market, people get excited in the stock market if their, I was about to say their coins, if their stocks went up 10, 20% in a year. That's like a good year. People love that. People are partying, popping champagne, but not in crypto. We're here for X's, multiples of ROI, and this is possible. Not only with newer stuff like Ethereum, but even newer stuff that the rest of the market thinks is risky, like PulseChain. I actually don't think it's as risky with, you know, the information that I know. So a lot of my viewers, you probably heard the spiel before, but that's what this video is going to be about. And we'll take questions. And first we'll say hi to everybody. Hello, Vic Foundation. Hello, Par Excellence. Vic Foundation says it's a new era. Hex Wizards in the house. James Caldwell, P Gold T. What's up, everybody? If I get distracted from the chat for a little bit, just know I'll come back to it at the end if you have any questions. And I'll share my screen just so we can pull up some visuals as I'm talking about this stuff. This is PulseX, and this is kind of my first point in terms of the bull case for PulseChain. The bull case for PulseChain, mathematically speaking, is it's just hyper low liquidity by design, and all of the volume is on chain by design. So I just made a video about Bitcoin. You know, 85% of the volume in Bitcoin is done on synthetic derivatives like futures contracts and ETFs, which are just paper Bitcoin. They don't actually, and yes, there are rights of redemption, but these are just vehicles that track the actual spot price of Bitcoin. And it used to be different. In the earlier days of Bitcoin, it was like 2080. Now it's 8020. You know, back in the day, the spot price was where everybody was trading, because we didn't have, you know, all we had was BitMEX or Deribit. We didn't have CME. We didn't have ETFs. And all this stuff pollutes the real demand, because it allows traders and huge corporations, hedge funds, institutions, people that can manipulate the money, literally even the Fed, who controls the money supply. People can now do like naked shorts or longs, and they can nudge everybody into this playpen where they're trading fake paper Bitcoin ETFs. And now they have, you know, all of the world's 401k and pension funds at their disposal to now move the price in a more structured way. It's a lot less volatile than it used to be, Bitcoin. Yeah, it really is. And if you look at the chart I posted on my Twitter, go follow me over there, you're going to see that we've had parabolic explosive growth in Bitcoin for 3 cycles in a row. And now all of a sudden it's looking a little bit linear. And I'm not saying that linear is bad. You know, it's still going up. I'm not saying that it can't, you know, maybe it surprises us and we still go parabolic. But because everybody's trading in this fake crypto world, you know, the ETF world, they basically brought crypto into traditional finance. All right. And so there's tons of liquidity. There's like, I think $200 to $300 million of daily volume on the ETFs, if I'm remembering that number correctly. And there's maybe 20 million, there's maybe 1/10 of that on the spot markets. So when people are betting on the futures price, you know, it's much easier to manipulate the price is all I'm saying. You can go short, long, you can do both. Hedge funds will typically do like a, there's a term for this, where you buy long and short at the same time, and you basically hedge yourself. Literally, I think the term is hedging, but there's another word I'm thinking of too. And when I say it's a heavy object to move, it just means that it takes so many billions of dollars to move the price of Bitcoin up. And Ethereum is getting there because we're starting to see the Ethereum ETFs as well, but Ethereum still has a lot of on-chain volume, and so does PulseChain. And the point I'm trying to make is that on-chain volume is much more valuable than paper trading volume because it's pure, it's unfiltered, it's uncorrupted, unpolluted, right? So you've got real people doing peer-to-peer trading on these decentralized exchanges, like Ethereum has Uniswap, PulseChain has PulseX. On the screen right here, this is what you're looking at. You're looking at the main DEX, decentralized exchange, and it's much more you get a much more accurate price readout, and it's actually the spot price that the people want. It's not whatever, you know, BlackRock is trying to get it to do. Because they also, by the way, have huge marketing disposal, right? If you own the media and you own the money, you can basically trick the public and say, okay, well, Bitcoin's cool now, guys. Everybody go do it. But make sure you do it on Robinhood. Make sure you do it on PayPal and Coinbase. And don't actually hold your own keys. Don't actually trade peer-to-peer. Of course, it doesn't help that the Bitcoin doesn't even have DEXs. Bitcoin itself is just a slow, kind of old, outdated technology too, which is why Ethereum is so much better. And with Ethereum, you've got this stat of rising DEX activity. So you've got a trend where I think Uniswap just hit 25% of all total volume, which is really good because that's up from 10%. And you know, 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago maybe, there were no decentralized exchanges. So all these had to be done on centralized exchanges, and typically spot over there, which is good. But like, you get better price discovery on chain where people can't really manipulate it. If they want to buy the coins, they have to buy the coins. They can't short with money they don't have, which is called naked shorting. Or they can't long with borrowed money and leverage and derivatives. So there's so much more opportunity that's mathematically calculatable to you on PulseChain. So for example, if we look at all the stablecoins backing the PulseChain ecosystem, it's a blessing and a curse, okay? Because it's a curse because you go down harder, because retail has paper soy boy hands and they jeet, which we've seen a lot of, and many altcoins, most altcoins really, just been down for the last like 6 months to a year. But if we look at it also means they're more explosive on the way up. And if we look at all the stable coins backing PulseChain, I know this is just the yield farms, but let's say, okay, the three major stablecoin pairs are DAI Pulse, USDC Pulse, and USDT Pulse. You divide this number by 2 because only half of these coins are on the stablecoin side. So let's call this like 2.5 million, 3.5 million, 4.5 million. And of course, this is only V1. So let's say there's like another 1.5 million on V2. I did the calculation earlier, but it's not exact. But about $6 million in total stablecoins backing PLS. And then every other meme coin on the Pulse network is backed by PLS. So the entry point, the US dollar price, which is what you all care about, which is what I care about, has very, very low liquidity. It's like hyper low by design. I mean, compared to Ethereum has hundreds of millions. I haven't looked at their on-chain volume, but we can go check probably on Uniswap and see that, WETH, probably in just a single one of its liquidity pairs, has, multiples of the total liquidity that PulseChain has total. WETH USDC, let's see if I can actually get what I want here. That screener can be tough to search through. WETH USDC is what I'm looking for. Uniswap. USDC. I mean, I can just Google it. I'm just going to show you guys the huge differential here compared to Ethereum. And by the way, all the institutions are getting into Ethereum too. Current liquidity on the V3 pool for ETH USDC is 116 million. So like there's $50 million at least of stablecoins on a single pair. This is one single pair of ETH, right? Because ETH is paired to DAI, is paired to USDT, all this different stuff. So a single Uniswap on-chain liquidity pair has more liquidity on Ethereum than the entire network of PulseChain. All of the stablecoins on PulseChain. I think total there's maybe 60 million stablecoins sitting on PulseChain. And maybe, like I said, 1/10 of those, maybe 6 million of those are actually in liquidity pools. Maybe some are in, other pools like the stablecoin pools. That just makes markets, more efficient when you're trading, but low liquidity. All right, you get the point here. So if you do if you look at the TVL, there's like 250 million total on TVL on PulseChain, but the actual stables backing it is only 6 million. And if you, double the stable coins, you 4x the price. If you 10 times the total amount of stable coins, you 100x the price. So if net, 60 million comes in, 100x prices are possible. And, I'm saying this to try to not be too much of a hopium moon boy, because I know that more than 100x is possible. But conservatively, if we get a 30x in PulseChain, that outperforms Ethereum and everything else. That's mainstream. I mean, of course, the meme coins are going to also launch up too, which is more of a retail game, which is why I've got my favorite meme coin, Top Hat. Shout out to Top Hat. And you can compare this with Solana, right? Solana has liquidity of about 8 billion total. $8 billion of liquidity versus 6 million in PulseChain. Huge differential, guys. Huge differential. So, liquidity, math. To me, that's the most compelling reason, but there's so many more too. So, in terms of the bull case, layer ones in the past have done well if they have a couple of things, right? The ones that have done well have had a committed founder, like super committed, like a winner. Okay, so you got Richard Hart on PulseChain, but you've got like Justin Sun on Tron, you've got CZ on Binance, you've got Charles on ADA. You've got all these guys that just didn't give up. If you want to look for a founder that doesn't give up, I personally know that Richard Hart is the kind of guy that will not give up. Some people don't believe that, and that's fine. I think that's one of the biggest information asymmetries. Sometimes people think, oh, he's not live streaming, so he must be running away or hiding or something like that. The guy literally built PulseChain. He built PulseX, and he updates the websites all the time. PulseChain.com's got a big update. He's updated the yield recently in terms of INC yield, HEX yield. He's always pulling some strings behind the scenes. And if people don't appreciate that, you can go over to like Sonic blockchain, which is a very interesting chain as well. But the founder, in terms of social media presence, is even less, right? People are begging for the Sonic founder, Andre Cronje. They're begging him to even make a tweet. And here we got Richard Hart, the founder of PulseChain, tweeting every day. And, that's not enough for some people that just want to cry because they want, they've got Stockholm syndrome or something. Like, I don't know. They've got abandonment issues, I think. A lot of people just wanted somebody else to tell them it's going to be okay. And that's fine. But those people are free to sell. Like, nothing is stopping you from selling and leaving if you're insecure about your bags, if you don't actually have conviction, and you want the founder to come back and tell you why everything is good. But, I mean, that's called shaking out, right? That's called shaking people out of the system. So, all these successful layer ones in the past, and I know there's a lot that are not successful, so let's not ignore that. But what did the successful ones have in common? Committed founder, builders, actual tech built on-chain, and community. And PulseChain checks all those boxes. I can give you specific examples, but, going into the builders, let's just give examples of every major crypto sector that's kind of successful. DeFi, decentralized finance, maybe meme coins, and let's say NFTs. Now, of course, there's AI, there's real world assets, there's all these other things. Let's just focus on a couple of the premier stuff that's already been built on PulseChain. When you look at it, when you look around on PulseChain, we've got 4 decentralized stablecoins, 4. We've got Liquid Loans, we've got Power City, and we've got inkprinter.com. You can mint a stablecoin backed by your own coins in a decentralized way. It's pretty remarkable. These are huge DeFi innovations. If you want to do decentralized borrowing and lending, PulseChain has, it's called fiat.io. If you want to do NFT trading, we've got plenty of NFT protocols. Whoa, hey, that was loud. Hey, thank you for the $2. He asks, Antonio asks, what about 7G? Don't know, don't really care. Haven't really touched that coin. Straight up not interested, but thank you for the tip, Antonio. That's my honest opinion about that coin. Back to what I was saying. Liquid loans, you know, all these different protocols, fiats, there's decentralized borrowing and lending. There's decentralized leverage trading on PulseChain. We've got all the pieces of the puzzle that make, you know, the cocktail of a self-sufficient chain. You've got Mintra.ai, you've got all these NFT platforms, Beatbox, HEX toys. As far as meme coins go, you've got Pump.tires. You've got an entire DEX called 9inch that's dedicated to meme coins, right? And then Pump.tires is like a meme coin launcher. So you've got meme coin communities that are alive and well. And when I see these guys, like, you know, Solana on PulseChain or like Pepe, whatever, the Mog guys, they meme really hard on PulseChain. These guys work for their bags. They're committed. They're very committed. And they, you know, they stick with a couple of memes longer than what I see on a lot of Solana, which is like pure degeneracy and pure apathy. And people can't even stick with something for a few hours over there. So meme coins, DeFi, NFTs, you name it, PulseChain's got it built already. And I'll talk about the wallets, and I'll talk about the exchanges and all that other good stuff, which is like infrastructure. Infrastructure is another thing that deserves its own topic, but that covers the builders, right? And as far as the community, you've got over 170 YouTubers and maybe a couple thousand active Twitter people that are posting every single day that have created this cult-like community of just passionate crypto enthusiasts. Everybody in PulseChain is kind of hooked on the original, not your keys, not your coins, you know, freedom, self-sovereignty narrative. And that's what I see on PulseChain. And if you want to go to like cryptovideos.io, why don't we just pull that up to give you a visual, right? Cryptovideos.io. Somebody made this really cool site. Or is it Crypto Vids? Let me see this right here. Yeah, cryptovideos.io. Look at all these YouTubers here. You can see me, I'm live right now. And out of all these YouTubers, a lot of them are PulseChain enthusiasts as well. They also had a website called The Pulse Tube. ThePulseTube.com. We'll see if this site is still live because... Oh no, it just redirects now. Well, you can see a lot of these HEX people, PulseChain people, in addition to the mainstream people. Oh yeah, this is filtered now. These are all the PulseChain YouTubers floating around in little bubbles, okay? You can see I'm not even the only one live. There's some other guy that I'm streaming over right now. Sorry, Dano Crypto. Like, it's hard to stream and make a live stream without having somebody else also be simultaneously live streaming. That's one of the crazy things about PulseChain. Like, if you go to, and I keep using Sonic as an alternate example, like Sonic has really good tech, but they don't have these marketers, these promoters that just are doing it, you know, for the love of the game. You really have this is really a differentiating factor of PulseChain that a lot of other chains really don't have. They have to pay people to care on other chains. You know, people have to actually be getting paid. And so the YouTubers on PulseChain, the Twitter people, they just wake up and they just pump, they shill their own bags, and they do their best to try to spread the word about stuff that they like. So yeah, the PulseChain core coins are all liquidity bonded as well, meaning there's 3 major coins. If you look at, let's go back here. You look at PulseChain. I'll just go to hexscout.com. How about that? When it comes to the PulseChain network, so you've got three major coins that everybody cares about because they're the coins that the founder founded. Scroll down here. And, you know, the coins, the prices are in the gutter. The prices are not good. But buy low, sell high. Exactly. That's what you're supposed to do if you believe in something, you have conviction. And so with the bull case on PulseChain, you've got all these alternative coins that you can choose from that are all liquidity bonded together. So if one really goes up and gets popular, they all get popular. It almost gives you a better statistical advantage. Better statistical advantage if you only wanted to pick one coin. Well, as long as you're picking one of the core coins, if one goes up, it pulls all the others up with it, because that goes back to the liquidity, the math, the way it's structured. The market in PulseChain is such that everything is bonded to Pulse, and HEX and PulseX and INC2 actually are heavily bonded to Pulse, more than every other coin, because of those liquidity farms, those yield farms that I just talked about. So you've got that. You know, PulseX is like Uniswap with the buy and burn. HEX is like long-term staking that helps people delay gratification and monetizes time. PLS is the gas token. Also gets heavily burnt, heavily deflationary at the moment. Pulse and PulseX very deflationary. HEX has low inflation. INC could be a sleeper cell. No use case yet, but it is the rewards token that could end up being a voting token one day for governance. Maybe. People speculate, okay? And they're just iterations of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Uniswap. So HEX is to Bitcoin as Pulse is to Ethereum, as PulseX is to Uniswap. Just better versions that do cool stuff that the originals don't do. Like HEX being on chain, for example, is pretty good. If it was designed to be a store of value, and time will tell. You know, if we see HEX back at $1 one day, like I'm hoping, like I told everybody I'd get a tattoo if HEX hits $1. If we see HEX at $1 one day, then in hindsight, it will appear as an amazing store value. Right now, it's been 98% off from all-time highs. So a lot of coins are really down from the all-time highs, but it really depends on the ones that are going to get back up. I think HEX is going to get back up. And even if it, let's say HEX didn't do well at all, but only PLS did or PulseX did, well, then again, it would drag HEX back up with it. Okay? So you've got the core coins, you've got the liquidity conditions that are just right. You've got a community of diehard supporters, and this especially goes for HEX as well, because we can actually mathematically visualize. I mean, you could see the statistics on chain. These are real numbers on the blockchain. And for people that don't know what blockchains are, they're the source of truth, right? They're the source of, like, a blockchain is a database that you can only read from and write to. You can never go back and edit it. So that's why people say it's like the source of truth, okay? The staker class in HEX, these are all the total HEX stakers, are locked for an average of 9.1 years. Now, without the origin address, I don't know, let's call it maybe 7. But where are you going to get people that believe in something for an average of 7 years? That means people lock up their HEX, and they're still doing this, right? You can see people on chain doing this. There's like a Twitter bot that goes off every time someone makes a big HEX stake. And you can see people continuing to lock up their HEX for, you know, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You set whatever time you want to set. But the reason it's a big deal is because you can't simply just unlock it without heavy penalties. If you unlock it, you get penalized and it all goes away. And those penalties get rewarded back to the stakers that are currently staked. So it's this game theory mechanism of the system that keeps people honest, but it also, what it's ended up doing is forming this incredibly long-term community that delays gratification, that understands and puts their money where their mouth is, and you could literally see that right here on the screen. 9.1 years average weighted stake length, 124,000 stakers. Obviously this doesn't mean 124,000 people, but let's say it's only, you know, 30,000 people. That's a lot of people. That's critical mass of believers that a lot of coins would kill to even have that many in their community. A lot of chains too. So average weighted stake length is something that you can look at and say, okay, these people aren't going anywhere. These are the delusional believers. Even if HEX, you know, even if it's not HEX, like at least these people are here in the ecosystem, shilling something else, right? Now, Richard Hart has a track record, pretty good track record as a founder. HEX did a 10,000x. 10,000x returning the pass. I really don't think that's going to repeat. I never did. You can go back and hear me saying, it's very rare to do a 10,000x, but to do it twice, even though it's possible, maybe a 1,000x is possible. That would be $10. It is possible. Actually, it would be like $6. Maybe technically $3 HEX, because the all-time low on HEX was like 0.0003, 0.003. Anyway, let's just look at the track record of Richard Hart. He had a coin. It went up 10,000x. He beat the SEC. People don't realize that if you're new coming in, there was a lawsuit against the Richard Hart founder, and they actually decided to sue the coins themselves, PulseX, PLS, and HEX. Which didn't make any sense, right? But the founder and his lawyers, they beat the SEC and got legal clarity, so they got a huge win there. So that's two major wins, right? First of all, HEX going up. Second of all, beating the SEC. But before that, he was a Bitcoin multimillionaire already. So this guy really doesn't need money. He's not doing this, who does a 5-year, 6-year long con, right? Who actually puts in the effort to build an entire chain and beat the SEC and all this stuff just because he wants to cheat and make a couple $1 million? That's not likely at all if you look at the fact that he was Bitcoin rich before all this, and even retired before all that. He was retired. He was an internet marketer in the early days of the internet and was a multimillionaire before Bitcoin. Bought Bitcoin, became even richer. And so this guy just has a track record of success, okay? I'm betting on this founder because I don't think that anybody comes close. Like, Vitalik is great. He makes a lot of good research papers and good big brain stuff. But Richard is this character that he does the marketing and the tech as like at the same time. He understands crypto on a deep level, but also he knows how to use persuasion and marketing and all that stuff. Let's go see what the chat is saying, and then we'll get back to it. All right. What's up, Hexagon Greenhorn? Kirill Cash says coffee, getting us prepared for some legendary streaming. Nice, yeah. Hope so. What's up, Shellfox in the chat? I'm going to take a look at the chat before I get back to talking about the bull case for PulseChain. Crypto Cause says coffee with coffee is a great way to start the day. I agree. What's going to happen with HEX? Nobody knows. My prediction is that the number will go up, and I'm kind of explaining why right now. Hex Day says, do I think Bitcoin will top at 128K or 172K-ish this cycle? Interesting question. Those are two very specific numbers. I don't think 128K will be the top. I think it'll go past that. And I only say that because I'm realizing how much Bitcoin all the institutions have accumulated. And they have every incentive in the world to basically make that the rest of the world their exit liquidity, right? I mean, now that they control so much of the supply, why wouldn't they want to push it up to 200, 220K? Why wouldn't they? So I don't think Bitcoin's going to top. I think that it is very possible that we also see a top in 2026 and we see an extended cycle because this time is different. Now, maybe not. Nobody really knows. But I don't think the Bitcoin top is in at 128K. Can we expect HEX, Pulse, and PulseX to top 2 to 3 months after Bitcoin tops? Well, isn't that kind of what happened last cycle with HEX? Look, Bitcoin typically runs first, then Ethereum, then altcoins. That's the standard playbook. Whether people agree with that or not, that's kind of just think about that from the sense of the first mover goes up, it gets everyone excited, and then people want more risk. So as people desire more risk, they go to Ethereum, and then Ethereum's got all the meme coins. So they're on Ethereum, but they want even more risk and even more gains. Then they ape into all the meme coins, or they ape into the alternative chains, and that's where PulseChain is sitting as this alternative blockchain, in addition to all the mainstream blockchains. Benny Davis says not cooked, just marinating. I like that, Benny. PulseChain is marinating. Marination pump loading. And look, the prices are pretty low right now. But these are going to give people the outsized returns in when the prices come back. All right. Let's go back to the bull case, shall we? What do I have written down here? There's some interesting stuff about PulseChain when you really look under the hood. If you're not paying attention yet, let me tell you about the whole world's largest airdrop narrative. It's something interesting that happened when PulseChain launched, where the chain forked off of Ethereum. But along with that, all of the coins from Ethereum forked off and got copied onto PulseChain. So if you don't know about blockchains, you can basically develop coins that live on top of a blockchain. A lot of times those are meme coins or whatever, but the main innovation with Ethereum is that you can now make a coin that sits on top of a blockchain. That it's like the car driving on the road analogy. Now, that was so successful with Ethereum because there are so many use cases for building your own coin. And all these speculative narratives got copied onto PulseChain. And people are speculating on like PDAI or PWBTC. As silly as I think some of the narratives are, like some of the narratives I just think are so ridiculous that I can't even entertain them. But as a speculative, like something to just guess the price on, you can look at coins like P wrapped Bitcoin. Okay, so there's wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. And then that wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum got copied to PulseChain. And there's a finite supply of it. It's actually more scarce than Bitcoin itself, you could say. And yes, there is a centralized entity called BitGo that custodies all the Bitcoin that's underlying the wrapped Bitcoin, but it seems unlikely that they would use their administrative powers to shut off P-wrapped Bitcoin, even though they could probably invalidate it all. It is like a fake DeFi crypto, but what's happened on PulseChain is people have formed these conspiracy theories, which again, it doesn't matter if I think they're ridiculous because other people are still gambling on the PRC20 coin copies. That's what they're called. So you've got ERC20s on Ethereum, which are coins built on Ethereum, and you've got PRC20s on PulseChain, which are coins built on PulseChain. Now, people that haven't discovered this yet, a lot of people get in to crypto because they hear about these PRC20s. They get into PulseChain because they hear about these coins, and they buy into some of these fantasy conspiracy theories, and it's created an attention vortex. And you can't deny that this attention vortex is really strong. A lot of people got sucked in with their money. You know, they put a lot of money up on some of these PRC20 coins, and they're not going to let it go. And this is okay when you realize that this could be an onboarding tool as well. So for the people treating this as an onboarding tool, you know, a way to get new money in and fresh capital in. I saw a big whale come in yesterday, or not yesterday. This is like a month ago. And they bought a bunch of Pulse. They bought some Top Hat, which is my favorite meme coin. And then they bought a bunch of PRC20 coin copies. So they must have gotten hooked by that narrative, and that narrative has proven to be an attention vortex, whether we like it or not. It's very niche, right? It's a niche within a niche, but PRC20 coin copy believers are driving speculation. And it's just, it blows my mind, but it's become so sticky that I recognize the value in terms of marketing purposes for just the stickiness of that. I'm not putting all my eggs in those baskets, right? Like I'm not buying up PRC20 coins, but some people are. And it's more important, in my opinion, to just get that money on chain. Like in my opinion, yes, people are buying stupid stuff at times, but the money that's on the PulseChain network is much more likely to stay there if they have something to rotate into. Or some narrative or conspiracy, or really it's just micro communities. We've got communities within communities, which is Reed's Law. Reed's Law is kind of like Metcalfe's Law, but basically says things grow even more exponentially fast when you've got sub-communities bonded to each other within a larger community. All right, so there's PRC20s. There's an SEC victory, meaning the legal landscape for PulseChain is totally clear. It's in the clear in the USA, which is the final boss, really. I mean, the rest of the world watches the USA, and they watch to see what we do here. And the SEC, the three-letter agency, has been trying to shut off a lot of cryptocurrency companies, make it really hard for them to do business. A lot of this happened under the Biden administration. Now that with the new administration, crypto coins and regulations are a lot more lax. And in the case of PulseChain, PLS, and HEX itself, there's legal certainty. So you don't even have to guess. They're the only crypto coins to ever be sued by the SEC and win. And Richard Hart is the only founder to be sued and actually win. Out of all the crypto guys, okay, all the crypto guys that got sued, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, most of these guys, I think there was maybe one other guy that won. Most of these guys ended up settling or the SEC dropped their case. But with Richard Hart, he won his case. So pretty remarkable there. That doesn't happen often, and it's because in the case of the SEC, the allegations were just so wrong that technically they lost on failure to state a claim and lack of jurisdiction, which are pretty huge reasons to not even start the case in the first place. Positive things that could come for PulseChain in the future are exchange listings. So you had PulseChain listed on OKX in the early days, and you also had it listed on MEXC, which was a community effort led by me, but it's since been delisted off of OKX and MEXC because of all this stupid Interpol stuff and SEC stuff. Now that the SEC lawsuit is done, in my opinion, I think OKX is a very likely candidate of one of the tier 1 major centralized exchanges to relist PulseChain. Now, some people think exchange listings matter. Some people think they're stupid. It's a nuanced opinion, okay? But the reality is that they're useful as onboarding tools, but they're not useful as anything more than that. But in terms of marketing to an audience with buyer's intent, you want to get listed on some major exchanges, not all of them, maybe 2 or 3 though, just to get your exposure out there, be exposed to millions of eyeballs, and most importantly, millions of dollars of value from all the volume that people are doing on this chain, or on the exchange, rather. That's why I think OKX is very likely to relist us, because they had us listed. They delisted us. PulseChain beat the SEC, and that's just a prediction of mine. I think OKX will relist us at some point. I also am very, very, very sure that MEXC will be relisting us too. You guys are about to find out how. There's going to be an interesting campaign pretty soon. Not even a campaign, okay? There's going to be I think MEXC is going to get relisted, and you're about to find out why. But I'm gonna leave that as a surprise. It's going to be good. Okay, so if you wanted centralized exchanges, great. But if you don't want them, just know that that's understandable. You don't want to be using centralized exchanges all the time. Then you want to get your coins out of them because they go down, they get hacked, they're not real crypto, not your keys, not your coins. They're not necessary, but OKX and MEXC, in my opinion, are likely to boost PulseChain in terms of marketing potential and getting in front of eyeballs and money. So, in terms of on-ramps as well, exchanges are one thing, but we've got our own on-ramps that people are building all the time. So we've got rampnow.io, which is a huge on-ramp. Shout out to hexscout.com. This one team at HexScout got us listed on rampnow.io. You've got Coast Exchange, which is our very own exchange made by PulseChain people that allows you to link your bank account and buy PLS, HEX, or PulseX directly with money in a bank account. So we have a partnership with Old Glory Bank over there. The Coast platform, gainpulsechain.com, link in the description below. If you want to set one up, it's a PulseChain native exchange that's all they do. All they do is they let you link your bank account and buy PulseChain HEX or PLS or PLSX directly into your wallet. So no bridging, no withdrawing. They don't even hold funds on the exchange. It's a really cool design, and there's no limits, which is huge. Because they also allow you to mint a stablecoin if you want, one-to-one, backed by the bank. None of that really matters. The cliff notes of all this is that extremely high limits. Basically, your only limit is whatever your bank limits you, which I think for wire transfers is like $25,000. But for institutional money that has higher limits, I mean, if you're a company, you can also make an account at Coast under your company's EIN. So I think people aren't realizing, I don't hear people talking about the fact that Coast allows corporate accounts. And corporate accounts includes, hedge funds, family offices, private equity. Like people with a lot of money can come in, create an account on Coast. And because their banks probably have millions and millions of dollars as their limits, money could flood in through high net worth individuals in that route. You've also got LibertySwap.finance, which is you're coming in from Binance, Base, Arbitrum, you can basically get onto PulseChain in like 2 minutes. So you buy USDC, which is the world's most accepted stablecoin, the lowest fees in the USA. I mean, USDC, if you want to buy USDC from any wallet, you can pretty much do that. If you want to buy it within your MetaMask wallet, you can buy USDC on the Base network. And if you have USDC on Base or USDC on Binance Smart Chain or USDC on Arbitrum, you can use LibertySwap.finance and you can transfer up to, I think, $2,500 of stablecoins pretty instantaneously. It takes literally 2 minutes, actually less. When I did it, it took, less than 1 minute. And so all these on-ramps that are being built that are PulseChain specific it's actually alpha. You might have already heard about this because you're following me, but if you're new watching, you got to realize that people are building some serious on-ramps that are ready to basically handle all kinds of incoming volume, incoming liquidity. Internet Money Wallet's a good one too. It's a multi-chain wallet developed by a PulseChain friendly individual. And from that single wallet, you can buy crypto and you can bridge into PulseChain from no matter what crypto blockchain that you're already familiar with. So I think these on-ramps like LibertySwap, Coast, Internet Money, these are just kind of priming us for explosive growth. So will it be explosive? I mean, look, I don't know if it's going to be a more drawn out pump this time. You can look at the Tron chart. You can look at like other blockchains in the past, how they've had more predictable, slow growth. But I mean, the fact that there's no centralized exchange liquidity, there's no fractured liquidity, there's very thin liquidity in general. And you've got all these on-ramps that are being built. So all roads are flowing into PulseChain, or they will be. And the builders on PulseChain are prioritizing that kind of thing, and you're going to get some exchange listings. This is like the perfect storm to create a pump in the ecosystem. You know what I mean? So historically, yep, all the committed founders that just kept building, that had good communities, they pumped sooner or later. And a lot of them did hundreds of X's of returns. The community, the founder, the tech. And let's talk about the tech as well. The tech is actually truly decentralized. And the narrative of PulseChain is that it's kind of the last cypherpunk chain that hasn't sold out to corporations. So what does that mean? It means nobody can shut it off. Censorship resistance. The reason crypto was invented was to get around corrupt middlemen. And that's censorship resistance. That means nobody can shut off your bank account. No one can take your coins away from you. Even when the SEC thing was going on, most of the PulseChain people were like, yeah, that's whatever, because they can't take my coins away from me. Like, it's not like if you have a bank account, yeah, someone can shut off your bank account. But PulseChain is kind of the last stand in terms of true decentralization in the crypto ethos, because we see a lot of, remember Bitcoin that I was talking about earlier, sold out to institutions. A lot of like Solana, it's heavily backed by venture capital and hedge funds. And a lot of these centralized entities literally just want to rinse retail. They want to market it to retail so they can unload their bags. And that's why you see all these layer twos have unlock schedules, vesting schedules. PulseChain has no unlocks, no vesting schedule. There's no corporation. There's no PulseChain Incorporated that is just waiting to sell on your head. With Ripple, for example, you've got a company of people that every month, as an order of business, this is just something they do. And I think most Ripple investors don't even know this because they just want the number to go up. The company Ripple itself is dumping XRP on the market, creating a negative externality, negative sell pressure every single month from their giant treasury of all the coins they have. So the giant treasury, you could say, of all the PulseChain coins, the founder does own like 90% of all these coins. They've never been sold. in 5 years. And I don't believe that the founder has any interest in selling his own coins because he wants the price to go up. So I think the one major difference with PulseChain is that in crypto you have, let's call them vulture capitalists, that they make the chain for the sole purpose of extracting as much value as they can and lining the pockets of all of their seed round investors, Series A, Series B, and it's just rinse and repeat. That's why we've got hundreds of failed L1s and hundreds of projects that people just threw money at, and now like they're in the hole. Look at Solana. So many people were in the hole on Solana because they all invested with Sam Bankman-Fried, because they thought Sam Bankman-Fried was a genius, boy genius, ended up being a scammer, going to jail. One second here. So yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried, I think, tricked a lot of people into getting into Solana straight up. I think it really is this simple. And now a lot of people are holding the bag after Sam Bankman-Fried told them it was a good idea. And now they need exits. So VCs need exits. VCs, literally, that's their business. In PulseChain, you've got a single founder, Richard Hart. There were no VCs. And so there's no unlocks. There's no vesting schedules. And it is my belief that Richard Hart is not doing this for the money. Why do I say that? Well, it came out of his mouth. If you listen to him verbatim, he talks about, in previous videos, he's not in this for the money. And again, if you don't believe that, don't get it. But if you want to get into it, just realize that the guy's been rich and retired for many, many years. And I think if he was going to do a long con of if he was going to scam out, I don't think anybody works that hard for that long, for 6 years, just to scam. Okay, pretty simple logic there. And, some people just don't believe that, but I think they're going to be just very mistaken. And they can buy back higher as well. Because a lot of people are hearing about PulseChain. I'm only one of many people talking about it. The brand name awareness is something that a lot of people don't realize. Because for whether or not you think PulseChain is suspicious or scammy or you love it, it has this very polarizing reaction in the crypto community. So people either love it or they hate it, but they have heard of it. And that was all by design. It was by design because Richard did this outrage marketing thing, but all that means is that when the prices go back up, people will find it much easier to ape back in because they've already heard about it. It lives in their head rent free. And, the seeds of attention have been planted already. So let's take a look at the chat, shall we? Luke Duffney says, keep it up. FSXE says, Internet Money Wallet. Yes. Internet Money Wallet is good. Is it live or yes, this is live. Hexy McHexican, great name. It says Legends. Myron Jr. Yeah, I will take questions if you guys have questions in the chat. Where was I in terms of why I'm bullish? The founder, the tech, it's decentralized. Nobody can shut it off. Low inflation. There's burn mechanics baked in. That's another thing too. The deflationary aspect. As PulseChain gets used more, just from simply a mechanical standpoint, the PLSX token gets burned and the PLS token gets burned. So the more successful it is, the more supply is taken off the table. The more demand there is, the lower supply there is. And it's accelerated because of the buy and burn function, not only of PulseX, but there's a buy and burn function of pump.tires. Every time someone buys a meme coin on pump.tires, 1% of their buy is burnt. So I guess PLS really does have a buy and burn. That's one way to put it. And the fact that just the network itself of PulseChain, similar to Ethereum, is deflationary because every time a block is mined in the PulseChain blockchain, 25% of that block's fees are burned. So because the fees are burned, it's net deflationary. Yes, there's new Pulse minted in a block, but there's also fees that get burned that outweigh the new Pulse minted. Any questions, everybody? He's so memeable. A lot of people think the founder is very memeable. He really is. I mean, when you see some of his antics, his marketing stunts, is him sitting on a G-Wagon with a big PP license plate. Like, Richard Hart's a very memeable guy. I mean, that's Top Hat, my favorite meme coin, is literally a meme inspired by Richard Hart. And Richard Hart used to wear a top hat. He understands how to get attention. Bruce Lee also says he buys his own coins. He does buy his own coins. So if you're new watching this and you look at all the other L2s and all the other founders, like I just said, that are dumping their own coins, Richard Hart buys his own coins. So about this time last year, maybe a year and a half ago, a lot of wallets that were suspected to be related to the founder were seen buying up the price and pumping the price. What kind of founder pumps their own coins? This is literally the only founder that I've ever seen that does this. I mean, there's buybacks and stuff, sure, but there's usually, when there's buybacks or stuff like that, there's something going on the other side. Yeah, and usually the reason that people they do these buybacks is to try to offset, VC unlocks. Or they try to say, look over here, we're buying a little bit, but really we're just selling it all on the other hand. There's none of that in PulseChain. Just founder wants his coin to go up. Founder might pump his own coin. But I mean, even without that, the community, the tech, everything else I talked about is still more than good enough. Harry Williams says, why doesn't Internet Money Wallet accept Trezor hardware wallet? It doesn't? I'm pretty sure it does work with hardware wallets, but that would be a question for KG. KG, if you're listening, the founder of Internet Money Wallet, I do know him well. Someone's having a hard time with Trezor, I guess. Hardware wallets are another story. Do you actually need a hardware wallet? Well, I think yeah. I think you should. But it does give people more rope to hang themselves with. So look, millions and millions of dollars are lost all the time. A friend of mine lost $30,000 because he took a screenshot of his seed words and he saved them in his Dropbox. I mean, there's more examples of this, but I don't want to keep giving examples of horror stories. Just Google it. You'll find Reddit posts of people that lose all of their crypto. So this is a side tangent, but if you're new to crypto and you don't want to lose all your money, well, when you create a wallet, like try out Internet Money Wallet, for example, when you first set the wallet up, it's going to give you 12 words. These 12 words are your ultimate secret passphrase that generates your wallet, which means if you take those 12 words and you import them into another wallet on another phone, the same accounts are going to come back up. So it generates all of your accounts. But if you lose the 12 words, or somebody steals the 12 words, you lose all your money. Somebody literally takes all your money. So with great power comes great responsibility. You might find that scary. I find it scarier to just be sitting in a bank account, honestly. And I know that sounds crazy and weird, but in 10 years, it's not going to. In 10 years, the world will be natively on crypto. There will be a quasi-centralized and maybe half decentralized way. Your iPhone one day is going to have a crypto wallet baked in. And it's not going to be that far away. So you should familiarize yourself with the concept of holding your own private keys and not your keys, not your coins. So typically you'd want to write the keyword, the seed words down on paper. You could laminate the paper, make it waterproof. You could stamp it into metal, make it fireproof. Either way, as long as it's offline, the number one thing I see people do wrong, that number one reason people lose all their money is they take a screenshot of their seed words and they save it to iCloud. Or they save it to Dropbox, or they save it to Google Drive, or they save it to whatever, OneDrive. Do not put them on the cloud. No screenshots. No internet. And if you really want one extra step for security, get a Trezor or a Ledger. I think I have a Ledger affiliate code in my description below. Just get a Ledger. It's good for peace of mind. And what that does is every time you want to do a transaction on the blockchain, let's say you want to swap one coin for another, well, instead of just clicking confirm in your wallet, what the hardware wallet does is it goes as an intermediary step where it'll ask you to confirm the transaction on your hardware wallet, meaning you have to have it plugged in to your computer, and it interacts with your MetaMask, or it interacts with your Internet Money Wallet that you probably already have. And it just asks you one extra time, hey, would you like to confirm this transaction? And then you confirm it on that Trezor device or that Ledger device. But why would you want this? It's because what if someone steals your computer right? And then they guess your password. Maybe they brute force your password, or they got it online because your password is the name of your dog. You know, it's like, it's really easy to socially engineer people, and or you know, people just steal stuff. But if you had a hardware wallet, it doesn't matter if they take your crypto device, because they can't access your crypto because you would need that hardware wallet to access it. And if they take your hardware wallet, well, they don't know the PIN code, so they can't get into the hardware wallet. So it's pretty safe, and I really enjoy that part. But really, just don't talk to other people about your crypto, how you store it. Don't put your seed words online. You're probably going to be fine. And you know, hardware. If you're really not tech savvy, a hardware wallet can be an issue. Where let's say you forget your PIN code and you lock yourself out, and you forgot to write your seed words down, then you're screwed. Just don't do that. Just do what I'm telling you to do, and you'll be okay. Read my question on Tink Tonk. Hyper Sniper says, has anybody tried to crack the 1 million hex picture thing with BTC Recover? I did try. I tried for a couple hours. I tried for a couple of days because I would let it run overnight. And it was a pain in the bollocks. I agree, Hyper Sniper. And actually, somebody did crack the code. But then they decided to give the money, like, they decided to just leave the money in there. So someone was like, yeah, I cracked it, but I don't really want the money. So people that don't know, DeFiPuzzle.xyz, there's $6,000 sitting in this puzzle. Let me show you guys on the screen. DeFiPuzzle.xyz. So this picture here has encoded a private key, a seed word, a series of 12 seed words. And if you guess the 12 seed words that are described in this picture, as this picture basically has the clues to 12 words, you can drain this wallet and you could take 1 million hex. And we could see if we copy paste this wallet, just to see if the coins are still there. Let's see how many coins are actually in this wallet. What's a good block explorer we can go to? Lightbeam? Shout out to Gerardo. Lightbeam.xyz is a pretty good block explorer. Go ahead and take this. Hey, the prices are up 1% today. We could take this DeFi puzzle address, and remember, if you guess all the words, you get to take the money out. So it's got. Oh, maybe somebody did take the money out. Oh, so somebody already beat it. Yep, somebody won this already. So, never mind. False alarm. Yeah, there's no money in there anymore. Hey, Coffee, I got a couple of bands of dry powder. Should I get some Sol or PLS? I already have a good amount of both. I would say PLS every time. If you're trying to compare Sol versus Pulse, look, Solana already went up 6, 7, 8x off the lows. PulseChain is at the lows with lower liquidity. I'd get Pulse with that, but you do you. You know, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. If you want to get Solana, like the only use case I could see for Solana is if you have some like insider info on a meme coin and you want to chuck a couple of Sol at some meme coin. But again, if you're not part of the cabal in Solana, you're probably not going to make money on those meme coins either. Just saying. And there's not like any cool DeFi projects. Like there's nothing else on Solana other than the Degen Casino. Look, if you got the inside scoop on a meme coin, maybe. Otherwise, I'd go PLS. Why did that staker graph behind me wick to 0? Oh, I don't know. Just a bug in the code, I think. Motley says it's been solved already. Yep, never mind. Hyper Sniper says no. It's good to see you, Motley. Well, guys, we did about an hour. If anyone's got questions, I'll take them. But I'll let you guys enjoy your Monday. Yeah. Look, it's the all-time lows. Almost. Things are looking dark. But it's not going anywhere. PulseChain's not going anywhere. Benny Davis says, question, what is your path for onboarding? Well, these days, there's a lot of different options. If you've already got crypto coins, you could just use, what would you use? Like Change Now or StealthX. I've got tons of videos, and I've got a course out too, where if you want to get into crypto, I've got like all the different methods of how to buy. Like you could use Cash App. If you have Cash App, you could use pulseln.com. If you've got Zelle, you could use phoenix.market combined with libertyswap.finance. If you got Venmo, you can use this app called zkp2p.io. Look, if you're looking at how to get in or how to just get started in crypto in general, hexpassiveincome.com is my one-stop shop course. Takes you from zero to hero. Everything I know about crypto. I mean, it's incredible value. It's there's a coupon right now, 25% off this month. It's just good, you know. It teaches you all the security, all the mindset, all the terminology. And if you're brand new to crypto, like I wish I had something like this. It could have saved me hundreds of hours of time and thousands of hours of making mistakes. It tells you stuff like how dangerous trading is, how to set up a wallet, how to buy crypto, how to sell crypto, how to do yield farming. I just added another lesson about how to stake Pulse with liquid staking derivatives. So you can earn like 12, 13% APY on your Pulse. It's everything I know. And if you want a step-by-step walkthrough, I will virtually hold your hand in hexpassiveincome.com. It's just a one-time deal. And if you have more specific questions, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/cryptocoffee369. Or I think you can subscribe on Twitter and get the same thing. Yeah, if you have specific questions, hit me up on Patreon in my Discord chat. If you just want a one-stop course, you know, everything you need to know about crypto, doing it the right way, how to make some passive income strategies, really check that out. I highly recommend it. I was just rewatching some of it the other day because I'm like, oh, some of these videos are, you know, 2 years old. They're still just as relevant today as they were back then, if not more. And like I said, I keep updating it. So I just added another lesson about yield farming on Pulse XV2, talking about making 30, 40% APY with yield farming. Of course, there's impermanent loss risk. Extended or retarded cycle. This cycle is tamed by Wall Street dudes. I don't know what you mean by retarded cycle, but I think extended is likely. I think Wall Street dudes are structuring the bid. Yo, what's up, Zach Davis? He's asking if I'm in Chicago. Don't dox me, bro. Zach Davis, just text me, dog. Maybe you can find out. Jeremy Veritas says my odds of PRC20s to peg to ERC20s. Almost certainly no, but human stupidity knows no bounds. So, you know, it is possible. Like, why peg? Why not go past? Why not send PDI past $1? But I think the mechanics for a peg don't really work without a ton of liquidity. The mechanics for a peg do not work without tons of liquidity. And who's going to incentivize that liquidity? And also tons of collateral if the PDI narrative is still going. But I think the PRC20s have a future as speculation. I think a lot of PRC20s are going to pump. And you're going to keep having random pumps based off of these fairy tale narratives that people are telling themselves. ERC20s, pegging, no. Any roadmaps or things to get behind? Roadmaps or things to get behind? I mean, look, dude. Roadmaps are just a list of future disappointments. Like, roadmaps for projects are not the way to follow crypto. Right? Because it's always if there is a roadmap, then it's always going to be buy the rumor, sell the news. And then most people are selling the rumor itself too. Like, the game is so played out, the market's gotten smarter, that you're probably not going to win by just following a roadmap. You know, it's not 2017 anymore. I'm just being honest. Is anyone from the RH team still building PulseChain infrastructure? Yeah. Did you listen to anything I just said? Liberty swap. Like, here's the thing about the Richard Hart team doesn't officially exist. Okay, the founder Richard Hart has to be discreet, but you'll occasionally see him tweet about cool stuff like Gibbs.finance, cool new bridge, or LibertySwap.finance, cool new base Arbitrum bridge, or hey, you know, the website's got updated. So the team is very unofficial, and I think that's a good thing too, because you can't just, people won't just be sitting back hoping and praying for the team to do something. It's like there's a lot of armchair quarterbacking in crypto, right? I see this over on, for example, Sonic or something, and people just want other people to build stuff to pump their bags, but PulseChain has a lot of high agency individuals that they pump their own bags, they make their own stuff. So I'm not super excited about like roadmaps, and I think the stuff that we've already got is amazing. I would just want to see more marketing. It'd be cool if people did affiliate programs, more marketing for stuff like Coast, Internet Money Wallet, LibertySwap.finance, Pump.tires. These are all massive onboarding tools, and I think we just need to talk about them more. I think that's it. Johnny says PHEX has surpassed what? Oh, the ERC20 copy. Yeah, well, that makes sense because literally, so HEX came before PulseChain. The entire PulseChain community was seeded by HEX investors. You know, there would be no PulseChain if it wasn't for HEX first. So that makes sense that the PHEX is higher than the EHEX. Everything else, it's pretty hard to fork a community over. You know, let's say you've got PPepe. PPepe is it's going to pump as a meme coin probably, but is it going to ever outperform ePepe, the original Pepe? I mean, they tried it in the early days. Richard Hart tried to incentivize an ePepe, PPepe yield farm. Maybe if yield farms come back, maybe. But that's a lot of maybes, right? Like yield farms have to come back. Tons of liquidity has to go in. Communities have to get over their identity, right, and shift to a new blockchain. A lot of people just don't want to change chains. Like, do you really think the Pepe community is going to migrate their whole community over to a new chain? So what you have is like PulseChain people start their own community for their coin, but I haven't seen a successful chain migration, community migration besides HEX. And that's because PulseChain was created by the HEX founder. If it wasn't for that, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. I could very well be wrong, but I just don't. Tried it in the early days, didn't work out. So I don't think so. Hexy McHexican says, does the SEC case ruling mean that HEX and Pulse can never be securities even if RH makes promises? I was wondering that too, Hexy McHexican. Does PulseChain and HEX beating the SEC mean Richard can make promises now? It'd be nice, but I think he wants his name clear from everything. And I think it's also, you want the element of surprise. What's better, a bunch of promises that might or might not come true, or the element of surprise, knowing that things are happening on the background? CoFund says, hey, Coffee, first time here live with you. Love the info, mate. Your thoughts on Atropa? Again, that's kind of just my real thoughts, and I don't really care who I offend at this point. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of fairy tales that people are telling each other. But some people like to believe stuff. Some people like to think that there's a greater meaning to things and that people are geniuses and that there's a grand plan. It helps people make sense of the world. So I think the coins are going to be around for a while. I don't think people are going to stop whatever that is. They're bonded together. That's good. Sure. It's good if the prices go up. And then when the price dumps, well, all the coins that were bonded to the coin that dumped get hurt really bad. We've already seen it happen. You literally saw the founder dumping it. You know, you see the founder like dumping a coin. You see massive whales like exiting. But then, they say they're going to come back. And really, people are also desperate for a leader and desperate for a hero, someone to come save them. At the end of the day, that's just true. So, because of the way people are, I don't think that ecosystem is going anywhere. Benny Davis says, I got started in crypto with your course, Crypto Coffee. Thank you, Benny Davis. Glad you found it valuable. Have I seen how fast PWBTC pumped to 2K when there was an ink farm? It's pumpable. That is true, Johnny. Will the ink farms come back? I hope they do. Maybe just for fun. Wouldn't that be fun, right? I can imagine perhaps Richard and the team, the unofficial team, maybe just to light off some fireworks when the prices start pumping again. Maybe they do some random yield farms like that. Look, Occam's razor is like, okay, they tested in the early days. They didn't like what they saw, and the testing has stopped. But if they could come back. And Richard, if you're listening, consider new yield farms. I don't know. Could be a good idea. What is the catalyst I'm on the lookout for to know our bull market is on? Johnny with the good questions. Probably the number going up. No, I think obviously the number going up, right? But I think when Ethereum cracks its all-time high, I think it'll be time. New all-time high for Ethereum first. Johnny says, too many scams on PulseChain without official projects, community is pointless. Okay, Sony, maybe it's not for you. You know, a lot of the altcoins on PulseChain are probably pretty scammy. You're going to get that on any blockchain. If you want the official coins, go with HEX, PLS, and PulseX. Those are the official Richard Hart coins. And so if you don't want to branch out, that's totally fine. I understand that. Like, I really pulled personally 90, maybe like 85% of my portfolio is in the Richard Hart creations. HEX, PLS, PulseX. I actually don't branch out because, in a way, Sony, you're right. There's a lot of scams, even if they're not scams. They're just lackluster projects that don't do well. And I call them my degen plays, right? I've got Top Hat, bullish on that because I'm bullish on me. I've got a coin called Secret Token. So you can check out Secret Token. This is made by Hexagon Hill's team. I've really been liking the ROI on Secret Token. Part of me does want to keep it a secret because it's so good that it's one of those too good to be trues, but it's been working for 2 months now. And I've basically been making 1% ROI a day for 2 months, meaning I've paid back my entire principal if the coin went to zero, which fingers crossed it doesn't go to zero, because what I think the idea behind Secret Token and RSI coin is like they wanted to make it what OG Web Chef stuff, what they wanted the OG Web Chef stuff to be, meaning less of a big rotation, less of a flying by the seat of your pants type of thing, like make it up as we go along, and more of a solid group of core coins. That's just a side play, by the way. Shell Fox says cores exists. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. There is a lot of, like, you know, I don't know. There are a lot of fake communities. I will say that. But you get more of the fake communities over on Solana. You get a lot of Telegram. People will hire what's called chatters in a Telegram, and they'll pay like 5 people. It could even be one guy with 5 accounts to like get in a meme coin Telegram. This happens a lot on Solana. And they all just talk to each other to give the illusion that there's a whole bunch of people, you know? Like, it's just one guy talking to himself with the same 5 accounts. This happens on Solana. It less so happens on PulseChain. But I'm sure it still happens. Hi guys, it's a great synopsis of why PulseChain is going to melt faces, LFJ. Bro, what's happening with liquid loans? The token is in the gutter. Absolutely in the gutter. The loan token itself, though, regardless of if it could have 0 value. If the loan token had 0 value, it would still have utility because it's meant for revenue sharing for the protocol. So the reason to get the loan token is if you're bullish on liquid loans itself, loan could act like an unofficial referral program. Unofficial, you know, an indirect affiliate program. Why? Because you buy the loan token, you stake it in the protocol. Now you're earning the protocol fees. Now you have an incentive to go drive up the protocol fees. Now you have an incentive to go market the protocol. But, you know, regardless of loan token, I'm not buying any more of it. I mean, I took a big hit, obviously, with the sacrifice. way over-invested in that one. But as a protocol itself, it is incredibly useful to mint a stablecoin backed by PLS. You can mint a stablecoin that's decentralized, outside of government control with no off switch, and backed by your own PLS collateral. So I think that's a pretty darn useful protocol. I really wish more people would use it. I do have some loan tokens staked in the protocol right now, but it's only as useful. I mean, you only make money with the token if you get people to use the protocol. So I'll do my part. Go try liquidloans.io. I think I've made videos about it. Maybe I should make more. Stablecoins in general are only as useful as the users behind them and the liquidity behind them. If there's no liquidity, you can't cash it in for anything. Now I know Fux.io, the fork of Balancer. PHUX.io is home to a lot of stablecoin liquidity. So you've got a lot of USDL, which is liquid loan stablecoin. You've got a lot of that token over in the liquidity pools on Fux. I also cover that in my course too. Yield farming and all that stuff. Good questions, guys. Good questions. Oh man, we've got 1679 viewers. Where are you guys coming from? Probably mostly Twitter. Probably mostly Twitter. All right, guys. If you're new to crypto, get hexpassiveincome.com. Prepare yourself for the prices to go back up again. They will at some point. Things don't stay bad forever. Yes, it'd be really nice if global catastrophes stopped happening. Global panic. But look, the Fed will print money again. Hopefully sometime this summer. Maybe by July. Inflation rates are down. The Fed has already been buying back its ETNs. So the Fed has been buying back some of its debt. Did I say ETNs? I meant treasury notes. Not ETNs. And so the Fed is injecting a little bit of capital. Fed rates are going to come down. Any month now. Inflation is below 3%. And there was talk about Jerome Powell making basically 2%. 3% is the new 2%, basically. Now also Powell is going to get rotated out with Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is going to be the new guy. Hopefully he'll be a little more dovish. Dovish just means quantitative easing. Dovish and hawkish. Hawkish means guy want number up. Dovish means guy want number go down. Oh, and by the way, go like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. See you guys on the next video.